So you're trying out the subscription web design model, but you keep getting pushback because your client doesn't want to pay a subscription. What do you do in that case? Hey, that's what we're going to cover on this week's episode of Subscription Web Design. What if a client doesn't want to pay a subscription fee? How do we handle that? Now, listen, this question came from a listener in Spain, okay? And so I want to actually read their entire question and then give a couple of my thoughts on this, and it will certainly help him, but I think it will help all of you listening as well. Real quick, before we dive in, if you don't mind, I would love for you to just take note of sharing this podcast with your friends. Leave a review if you're listening on audio. Leave a comment if you're watching on video. That really, really helps get the podcast out to more people. There's just a couple small things that you could do that would help more people find and discover the podcast and hopefully transform their entire business and mindset this year. Okay. So if you could help me out with that, I would greatly appreciate it. I love when you guys leave comments. You guys are so kind and so uplifting and helpful. And I'm really proud of this amazing community that we're building in our little corner of the internet here with Subscription Web Design. So thank you for being along for the journey. And I hope you'll continue with me for a long time and tell others about it as well. All right, without further ado, let's get to this question from a listener in Spain. Quote, I'm living in Spain and I want to do the same model. I went and talked to some small business owners and they all prefer paying upfront instead of a monthly subscription. The reason is that to them, a website is like something they want to get done and that's it. Maybe paying for a domain and hosting, but nothing else. Also, to them, paying a subscription is more costly than paying upfront. And then just they'll pay every extra to get the work done anytime they need something done. So in other words, if just to clarify that, if somebody pays up front, they think that if they pay up front and then they pay extra along the way to get work done, then they'll save money rather than paying every single month. So to them, a website is just like an online brochure rather than a sales tool. I wonder how you would tackle this situation, especially when marketing is not my expertise and I can't offer something like SEO or marketing packages, end quote. Well, I thank you for that question. And we are going to dive into this. Now, I think there are a few mindset changes here that need to happen. And that's really where it's going to come down to. It sounds to me like the response that you're getting from small business owners is it's emotion based that is made to sound like it's logic based. Okay. So, for example, it's actually not very logical that you would pay $5,000 one time and save money by paying an hourly rate or a project rate every single time you need something done. In fact, and this may be different in different parts of the world, I'm willing to grant that we're in the United States, not in Spain. In the United States, there's no way to annoy somebody faster than by telling them that in order for them to get your help, it's going to cost some huge amount of money. For example, like calling Apple support, needing help with something that for a computer that you bought, but you didn't have a support plan. So they say, oh, well, it's like $300 to even talk to a support person. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people who have been upset because that happened. I remember a past client that I was doing some work with. Her previous web designer wanted $800 before she would even talk or before they could even talk to her about fixing a problem on a website that they spent $25,000 on trying to build. Okay. So it's really not a good situation when you get into that. I think it's a far better situation, frankly, no matter where you are in the world or what industry you're in, to pay a reasonable monthly fee for a service package, do work on a regular ongoing basis with your client, and then their needs are always serviced and taken care of. Okay, so you have the financial discussion once instead of having the financial discussion and tension come up every single time that they need work done. Okay, so that is just something to, as we go into this, that I really want you to consider. Is that I think that they have a emotional decision being made here of, oh, I don't want another monthly bill, that they're sort of shrouding in the guise of a logical decision. I don't think they're actually making this decision logically, because logically it doesn't really make sense. So let me give you 3 quick things here in answer to this question that I think will help. All right. The first is the definition of a website. Okay, right. So that to them, a website is like something they want to get done and that's it. and maybe they'll pay for the domain and hosting, but nothing else. And then they said the website is just like an online brochure rather than a sales tool. I was having a conversation about this a few weeks ago here on the podcast with Adam. We talked about that a little bit. And actually, we didn't talk about it on the podcast. It's something that we talked about afterward briefly. But we were talking, and he said, there's a lot of small business owners who don't view their website like a sales tool, right? It's sort of just like a box they have to check on the list of marketing activities and things that they have. And so let's just go with that, right? Let's say that is the case, that it's just an online brochure. I challenge that. Okay. I don't think that's the right definition of a website. But even if it was, you would still want your online brochure to be as up to date as possible, reflect the staffing of the business as accurately as possible. The website should still have information related to the company, and that's going to change every so often. If they're blogging, there's going to need to be blog posts edited and updated and removed and things like that, maybe over time. So, I frankly, I think it's just, in 2024, at least, it's just an incorrect definition of a website to say that it's just an online brochure. Even if it was, I think brochures need to be updated. But I would challenge that assumption. And when somebody says, hey, I think the website's just going to be more like an online brochure, I would maybe ask them a question and say, well, have you ever considered that your website actually could be a sales tool for your business? Have you ever thought about that? And they might say, well, I guess it's crossed my mind, but what would that look like? And then you could just ask another question. Well, could I have about 30 minutes of your time? And I'd like to talk through some ways that I actually think, based on your business, your website could become more of a sales tool. Yeah, sure. Why not? And then you go into it and you start talking about that. And then by the end of that 30 minutes, hopefully what you've accomplished is a changed mind on what the nature of a website is. And if a website is a sales and marketing tool, which, by the way, it is. Okay. That is the appropriate definition of a website. If your website is a sales and marketing tool, in fact, then it is the kind of thing that's going to need to stay up to date all the time. And then therefore you'll have a monthly plan. Now, this is really fresh on my mind because I get these questions too. In fact, just a couple weeks ago with a client that I'm working on, talking to and hopefully putting something together for, the same thing happened. Okay. He went into it with the expectation that we could just do some work one time and it would set his business up for success. And I was like, unfortunately, that's not the reality of the world today. And this is the other thing I wanted to get to when it comes to the definition of a website. Okay. A website, this is the way that I like to put it. A website is not like a house. Okay. A house is something that you build and then you build it and you keep it from falling down, right? That's maintenance. You keep the house from falling down. You get insurance on the house in case it does fall down, but you don't want to do that. And people don't want to do that. People don't want to pay for insurance on their website, which is why it's harder to sell a service plan, right? They don't want to pay for insurance. Nobody likes paying for insurance. When I used to work at Best Buy, we used to sell TVs, and the dirty little secret is that Best Buy doesn't actually make very much profit margin at all on the actual items they sell, like the TV or the computer. And that's why, in fact, I heard once from one of the sales guys that I used to work under, I actually heard that the certain computer models would actually lose us money if we sold them, but we had to keep selling them in order for us to actually retain the market share, right? So our job was to upsell them into protection plan services, installation services, update services, TV mounting, what was it called? Calibration, TV calibration, cables, screen cleaner, surge protectors, right? So service plans, services, and additional products that would actually increase the average order value and would actually make our sales profitable. Okay. That's the sort of thing that we had to do. And here's the thing. I can't tell you that how many times people told me, well, I don't want the protection plan. I don't buy those. It's insurance. It's a scam. Okay. So people don't want insurance. And this is also why I don't call, when I'm talking to clients, I don't sell them a subscription website. That's not what this is. I sell a managed website. The point is, this is not just a regular old website that sits on the internet and goes stale, looks bad, gets hacked by viruses and all this, gets blacklisted on Google and all this. No, it's a managed website. We manage the entire website. We manage the relationship. You never have to lift a finger and worry about it again. That's the entire point. So by redefining what a website is, rather than like a house, to finish the analogy, it's more like a living organism. Okay, it's in the world, it's in its environment. It has to react to changing circumstances every single day. Google changes every day. Facebook changes every day. X changes every day. Okay, ChatGPT is another introductory thing in the mix. Your website actually has to be constantly updated, maintained, and refined in order to survive and to thrive, frankly, in the environment that it's in. So you need to just change the definition of what they, and frankly, maybe you, are seeing the website as, and help them understand that it is a sales tool. And in 2024, it must be a sales tool. Okay. It's the hub of their online activity, and it needs to be that way. The second thing I'll say is that nobody cares why something is better for you. I mean, I have in some sales conversations made brief passing to the point that, look, I'd rather build a long-term relationship, rather than necessarily get a windfall of money from you right now and then ghost you 3 months down the road. That can be powerful. The web designer side of it, especially in a scenario where the client has been ghosted before. I like to say that I think some of the reason why clients get ghosted is because the web designer charged less initially for the project than they thought they should have. And when you ask them for more work, they're scared to go back to you and tell you what the real price would be based on the last time that y'all worked together, right? I think that might be something like what's happening. And so sometimes I'll go into that. But the reality is that this is just a better way for them too, okay? A managed website is better for the client. It's better that they pay a reasonable amount monthly, or whatever the amount is. It's better that they pay that monthly amount for your time and attention than it is for them to pay once up front and then not talk to you for months on end. Okay, that's not better for them. It's better for them that you have, that you're in their corner all the time. They have somebody that they can rely on when they need work to be done, and they just don't have to worry about it. And so it's peace of mind, it's security, it's flexibility, it's, not being surprised with crazy bills in the mail whenever you're trying to do work together. There's lots of reasons why it's better for them in the long run. And then the final thing I'll say here, and this kind of goes to what we were talking about earlier as well, is just challenging their assumptions and your assumptions, right? For example, in this last line, you said, I wonder how we would tackle the situation when marketing is not my expertise and I can't offer something like SEO or marketing packages. Well, again, that's an assumption. Marketing could become your expertise, and you very well could start offering marketing and SEO packages. By the way, you don't even have to be the one who does that work, right? Collaborate. Find someone who's good at SEO. I have 2 people on my team, one that I collaborate less frequently with, one more frequently, who are great at SEO, and they're each good in their own things that they do. And so we use them when it makes sense, when the time is right, and they come into the SEO, and we charge clients for that work, and then we pay these contractors for their work, and then we make a profit on the difference, okay? So I want you to, as you're growing through your business and going through your business, going and growing, I would say consider challenging your assumptions and helping clients challenge their assumptions about what's possible. Help them understand what's possible if you thought about the website as a sales tool instead of a brochure. Help them understand what's possible if they thought about the website as something that needs to be constantly maintained and updated and used in their marketing rather than just a static brochure, right? Think about what's possible if you could and did started offering copywriting and marketing and email marketing services and things like that instead of just website design. What would it make possible for your business or for your clients if you did that? So always be willing to challenge your assumptions, and I'll give you sort of a bonus here. Have an experimental mindset. Okay, I first learned this from Michael Hyatt, a brilliant business guy and productivity guru sort of thing. Love his work and his thoughts, but he has this idea of an experimental mindset. We could try almost anything once, okay? And we treat it as an experiment. And if it works, fantastic. Let's think about doing it again. If it doesn't work, also fantastic. We tried it, we don't like it, and we'll never do it again, and we don't have to. One of the things that I just stuck in my mind about this is I remember, this has been many, many years ago, they started a really cool YouTube show and series. And one day it just fell off the map. And I admit at first I thought, well, that's kind of weird. And then I was like, I guess it wasn't working for him. And then a couple of years later, I read his post about an experimental mindset. And I was like, oh, I guess that was an experiment. That one happened in public. Didn't seem like there was very much backlash or anything to it. So that's it, and it was over. So You can try things, and if they don't work, they don't work. But have an experimental mindset. Be willing to go into it, and I think it'll be fine. So yeah, this question comes up for sure with clients. Like, what if a client doesn't want to pay a subscription? Well, do all the things that I just mentioned, and then let me just leave you with this. At the end of the day, you can't force them to do anything. It's up to you to decide whether or not you're okay with them paying you in a more traditional manner. And if you are, then great. If you're willing to accept their whatever it is, $1,000, $5,000, or $10,000, for the work that they want done, then you make that decision. If you're okay with that, you can put that money in the bank and be happy with that. That's fine too. I do prefer for clients to work with me in the way of the model that I lay out, but I've said this before. I'm flexible. Anybody who is desiring to find a way to give me money, I'm typically going to figure out how to make it work. Okay, so. You do have that latitude as well. You don't have to turn everything into a subscription, even though I might like for it to be that way. All right. Hope that was helpful for you and for all of you listening. I hope you enjoy this podcast and get a lot out of it. Please let me know in the comments if that's the case. I always enjoy hearing that, and leave a review if you're listening on audio. Would love to hear that as well. All right. God bless you guys. Take care. Catch you in the next episode.